Let's talk to Andrew Murray, who is the Deputy President of the Stop the War Coalition. You feel very differently, don't you, about Britain leading the way and being involved in a potential war in Ukraine. What's your view in the sense that, of course, we are affected economically here with what happens there? We can't really back away from it, can we?
Well, I think the only resolution to this crisis, at least between Ukraine and Russia, is for Ukraine and Russia to sort it out for themselves. They have a Minsk agreement that both the governments of Ukraine and Russia signed 7 years ago, which has never really been implemented. But that is a proper basis for resolving that side of the crisis. The other side of the crisis, which obviously President Putin has been trying to highlight, is Russia's own security issues with the expansion of NATO, which they were promised in 1990. The Americans promised Gorbachev there would be no expansion of NATO. It wouldn't move an inch eastwards. It has moved eastwards a long way since, and this is felt to be very threatening. And that is the issue that the British government needs to be addressing. What has been extraordinary is how negative and even provocative the British government has been throughout this crisis, unlike, say, the French or the German governments that have been trying to find a basis for a diplomatic solution. The British government has simply been saber-rattling. It has been talking up war at every turn. It's been saying there's going to be an invasion tomorrow, there's going to be one this week, there's going to be a coup, there's going to be a false flag incident.
It come from American intelligence. To be fair to the British government, they were reacting to intelligence that was coming from their allies. There is a sense from me that, do you think that there is another reason why you think that in this country that war is being talked of, that perhaps the problems here domestically for Boris Johnson might be partly why?
Well, I wouldn't want to exaggerate that particular point. I mean, probably a distraction does help Boris Johnson at the moment with all the Partygate. But I think it's about the British and the American governments wanting to extend their own power and influence right up to the borders of Russia. Now, you talk about intelligence. Those of us that remember the Iraq War, and I'm sure we all do, can tell what utter disasters intelligence, so-called intelligence, can lead us into. That was a war fought on the basis of false intelligence. And let me just say two quick things about NATO. Firstly, no state has a right to join NATO. Joining NATO is at the discretion of its existing members, which basically ultimately means the government of the United States. They decide who comes into NATO and who doesn't. And the second thing is, it cannot now be seen just as a defensive alliance as it was presented during the Cold War. We've had the wars in Yugoslavia in 1999, in Afghanistan, and we saw how disastrously that went, in Libya, all of which were fought under NATO auspices. The Iraq War wasn't a NATO war, but the main NATO powers played a leading part in it. Okay. It is not surprising that the Russian government would see the expansion of a NATO that has behaved like this over the last generation as threatening. And I think we can take some encouragement from the fact that yesterday all sides seem to be saying there's more time for diplomacy, there's more time to get a peaceful solution. And the Ukrainian president was even indicating, not definitively, but indicating that Ukraine could park its aspirations to join NATO. That would be a basis for a settlement.
Well, let's hope so.
OK, well, absolutely. OK, I'm afraid I'm going to have to stop you there, but you've made the points with great clarity. Thank you very much indeed, but we're out of time. Could talk about this all morning.